The Madison Avenue Bistro occupied the ground floor of a stunning pre-war building in the heart of the financial district. Its floor-to-ceiling windows offered perfect views of the bustling street life, where well-dressed professionals hurried between glass towers that defined the city's skyline. At 7 p.m. on a Thursday evening, the restaurant buzzed with the energy of successful people celebrating success. Tonight it was hosting Mom's 58th birthday dinner. I sat at our corner table in my simple navy dress and modest jewelry, watching the street through those magnificent windows while my family settled in for what promised to be an elaborate evening. Mom had chosen this restaurant specifically for its reputation and location, the kind of place that would impress her book club friends when she told them about it later. "Isn't this absolutely perfect?" Mom said, adjusting the silk scarf that probably cost more than most people's weekly groceries. "I've been wanting to try this place ever since Patricia mentioned it in her newsletter." Dad nodded approvingly as he studied the wine list. "Excellent choice, Margaret. Very sophisticated atmosphere." My sister Victoria was busy taking photos of the elegant interior with her phone. "This will look amazing on my Instagram. The lighting is perfect and that chandelier is absolutely gorgeous." Her husband David was calculating something on his phone, probably trying to figure out how they were going to split the bill for a table of 8 at a restaurant where entrees started at $45. "The important thing," Mom continued, "is that we're all here together for this special milestone. Family celebrations should be memorable." She glanced around the table with obvious satisfaction. Victoria and David, my brother Christopher with his fiancée Amanda, and my parents, all dressed in their finest clothes and ready to make this an evening to remember. Then her eyes landed on me. I saw the slight tightening around her mouth, the way her smile became more forced. It was a look I'd learned to recognize over the years, the expression she got when something threatened to spoil her carefully constructed image. "Jessica," she said quietly, "could you sit up a bit straighter? And maybe fix your hair." I reached up self-consciously to smooth down my hair, which was pulled back in a simple ponytail. "Is something wrong with it?" "It's just, well, we're at such a nice place. First impressions matter." Christopher looked up from his menu. "Mom, Jessica looks fine." "Of course she looks fine," Mom said quickly. "I just want everyone to look their best for our family photo." The server appeared, a polished young woman who introduced herself as Michelle and began explaining the evening specials with practiced expertise. As she spoke about grass-fed beef and organic seafood preparations, I found myself studying the building's architecture through the windows. The limestone facade, the ornate ironwork, the way the late evening light hit the carved details around each window. It was really quite beautiful. I'd always thought so, even during the lengthy renovation process 2 years ago. "For wine this evening," Michelle continued, "our sommelier has selected some exceptional pairings that complement our seasonal menu." "Wonderful," Dad said. "We're celebrating my wife's birthday, so we'd like something special." "Of course. I'll have our sommelier come over with some premium options." As Michelle departed, Mom leaned toward me with that smile she used when delivering criticism disguised as helpful advice. "Jessica, dear, when the sommelier comes over, please don't mention that you don't drink wine very often. It might seem unsophisticated." I wasn't planning to mention it. "Good. And perhaps don't ask about prices. That's not really done at establishments like this." Victoria was scrolling through the restaurant's Instagram account on her phone. "Mom, look at these photos. Everyone here looks so polished and successful. No wonder you chose this place." "That's exactly why," Mom agreed. "The caliber of people who dine here really says something about the restaurant's standards." Christopher's fiancée Amanda looked slightly uncomfortable. "The menu is certainly extensive. Quality costs money," Mom said with the authority of someone who'd read that phrase in a magazine. "But some occasions justify the investment." The sommelier arrived, a distinguished gentleman who presented 3 wine options with appropriate ceremony. Dad selected a bottle that cost more than many people's car payments, and Mom beamed with obvious pleasure. "This is exactly the kind of evening I was hoping for," she said as the sommelier departed. "Surrounded by family in a place that reflects our values." "What values are those?" I asked. "Success," she said immediately. "Achievement. The importance of making something of yourself in life." She gestured around the elegant dining room, where other tables were filled with people in expensive clothes having animated conversations about business deals and vacation homes. "These are our people," she continued. "People who've worked hard and earned the right to enjoy life's finer experiences." I nodded and returned to studying the menu, though I could feel her watching me with that particular expression that meant trouble was coming. Our appetizers arrived, and the conversation flowed easily around topics like Christopher's upcoming wedding, Victoria's promotion at the marketing firm, and Dad's plans for expanding his dental practice. Everyone was relaxed and happy, sharing family stories and making toasts to Mom's health and happiness. That's when things started to go sideways. "Jessica," Mom said during a lull in the conversation, "tell us about your work. Are you still doing that freelance thing?" "Property management," I said. "Yes, I'm still doing that." "Property management," she repeated, and I could hear the slight edge in her voice. "For apartment buildings?" "Various types of properties." Victoria looked up from her phone. "That sounds interesting. Like managing rentals for landlords." "Something like that." Mom's smile was becoming more strained. "It's just, well, I worry that you're not really building toward anything substantial. At your age, most people are thinking about career advancement, retirement savings, real asset accumulation. I'm thinking about those things." "Are you though? Because from the outside it looks like you're just treading water." The table was getting quieter as family members sensed tension building. "What do you mean?" I asked. "Well, look around this room," Mom said, her voice gaining confidence. "Everyone here has clearly made something of themselves. They dress well, they carry themselves with confidence, they obviously have the means to dine at establishments like this." She paused meaningfully. "And then there's, well, your situation." "My situation?" "Jessica, you drive a 10-year-old Honda Civic. You live in a studio apartment. You shop at discount stores." Her voice was getting sharper. "You show up to family celebrations looking like you're going to a casual lunch, not a milestone birthday dinner." The silence at our table was becoming noticeable. "Mom," Christopher said quietly, "maybe we should just enjoy dinner." "I'm just being honest," she continued, clearly warming to her theme now. "Success isn't just about having a job. It's about building something meaningful, something you can be proud of." She gestured at Victoria and David. "Victoria has a corner office and a company car. Christopher is marrying a lovely woman and they're buying their first house together." Then she looked directly at me. "And you're managing other people's apartment buildings while living in poverty yourself." The word poverty hung in the air like expensive perfume, present, unmistakable and slightly suffocating. Dad cleared his throat. "Margaret, that's a bit harsh." "Is it though? Look at her, Richard. Really look. The discount store clothes, the complete lack of jewelry, the way she studies the menu like she's calculating whether she can afford her meal." I had been studying the menu but not for the reasons she assumed. "I'm not trying to be cruel," Mom continued, her voice dropping to what she probably thought was a whisper but was actually audible to half the dining room. "But Jessica, you're embarrassing us. When people see our family together, what do you think they assume about the rest of us?" "What do they assume?" I asked calmly. "That we failed somewhere. That we didn't raise our children properly, that we don't have our lives together." Her voice was getting more agitated. "You're 29 years old, Jessica. This isn't a phase anymore. This is who you've chosen to become." Victoria was staring at her plate. Christopher looked genuinely angry. Dad appeared to be calculating how quickly he could change the subject. "Stop embarrassing us with your poverty," Mom hissed, leaning forward. "Just for one evening, can you please try to act like you belong in a place like this?" That's when I quietly pulled out my phone and opened my property management app. "Mom," I said calmly, "would you like to know something about this place?" "What do you mean?" I turned my phone screen toward her and showed her the building's profile in my portfolio management system. "I own this building." She stared at the screen for a moment, clearly not understanding what she was looking at. "What is that?" she asked. "This is 447 Madison Avenue. Purchased in 2020 for $47 million. Current value approximately $62 million. It houses the Madison Avenue Bistro on the ground floor and 12 luxury condominiums on the upper floors." The words were registering but she wasn't processing them yet. You own this building?" "This building and about 40 others." I scrolled through the portfolio on my screen. Would you like to see the complete list? Dad had gone very still. Victoria was staring at my phone like it might be displaying alien hieroglyphics. 40 buildings? Mom whispered. 43 as of last week. Commercial and residential properties throughout the downtown core and surrounding neighborhoods. I showed her the portfolio summary screen. Total asset value is currently $3.2 billion. Her fork dropped from her fingers and clattered on her plate. $3.2 billion? That's the current market valuation. Of course, property values fluctuate, but the portfolio has appreciated consistently over the past 5 years. Christopher finally found his voice. Jessica, what are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that I'm not managing apartment buildings for other people. I own the apartment buildings, along with office complexes, retail spaces, and restaurants. I gestured toward the window. See that glass tower across the street? Why, the boutique hotel 2 blocks down? Also mine. The shopping complex where Victoria bought her dress for tonight? I own that too. Victoria made a sound like air escaping from a balloon. But you drive that old Honda, Mom said weakly. Because it's reliable and fuel efficient. Why would I need a fancy car when I spend most of my time in buildings I own? And your apartment is actually the penthouse of this building. I converted the top floor into a private residence when I renovated the property. It has 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and a rooftop garden with panoramic city views. Dad was staring at me like I might be in hallucination. Jessica, how is this possible? It's possible because I've been building this portfolio for 8 years while you all assumed I was struggling. Every time I tried to share news about a successful acquisition or a major renovation project, you'd change the subject or offer advice about getting a real job. 8 years. Mom repeated. Started with a small duplex I bought with my college savings. Used the rental income to finance the next purchase, then leveraged that to acquire larger properties. Each successful investment funded the next one. Amanda, who'd been quiet throughout this entire exchange, finally spoke. Jessica, are you saying you're actually wealthy? I'm saying I've built a real estate empire while my family worried about my discount store clothes and 10-year-old car. I scrolled to another screen on my phone. Last year's rental income was approximately $180 million. After expenses, debt service, and taxes, my personal net worth is around $800 million. The silence that followed was so complete I could hear conversations from other tables. $800 million, Dad said slowly. Plus the unrealized appreciation on properties I haven't sold yet. Mom was gripping the edge of the table like she might fall over. But we thought, all this time we assumed. You assumed what you wanted to assume. It was easier than listening when I tried to explain commercial real estate investment strategies or property development timelines. You tried to tell us about this? Remember last Christmas when I mentioned the downtown office complex? You told me to stop daydreaming and focus on finding stable employment. I thought you were talking about some fantasy project. I was talking about a $95 million acquisition that increased my portfolio value by 30%. Christopher was looking around the restaurant with new eyes. This is all yours? The building, yes. I don't run the restaurant. I lease that space to professional restaurateurs. But I designed this renovation specifically to attract the kind of high-end establishment that would enhance the property's value. Victoria was frantically Googling on her phone. Mitchell Properties. Jessica Mitchell, founder and CEO. A $3.2 billion commercial real estate portfolio. You have a Wikipedia page, she said weakly. Forbes did a profile last year about young women in real estate development. Apparently building a billion-dollar property empire before age 30 is considered newsworthy. Mom looked like she might faint. You were in Forbes. The article was about innovative approaches to urban property development. My mixed-use renovation projects have become case studies in several business schools. I put my phone away and picked up my water glass. The real irony is that you're sitting here lecturing me about success and embarrassment while dining in a building I own, at a restaurant that pays me rent, surrounded by properties I've developed. Dad finally found his voice. Jessica, why didn't you correct us? All these years of thinking you were struggling. Because every time I tried to share professional achievements with you, you'd dismiss them or redirect the conversation to your disappointment in my lifestyle choices. It became easier to let you think what you wanted to think. But we worried about you constantly, Mom said, tears starting to form in her eyes. I know you did. And I appreciated the concern even when it came with lectures about poverty and embarrassment. I pulled an envelope from my purse and placed it on the table. What's that? Mom asked nervously. Your birthday present. The deed to the lake house in Vermont that you and Dad have been dreaming about for 15 years. She opened the envelope with shaking hands and stared at the property transfer documents. Jessica, this must have cost. It doesn't matter what it cost. What matters is that you have a place where you can be happy together. But after everything I said tonight, all those cruel things about poverty and embarrassment. Mom, you said those things because you love me and you were worried about my future. You were wrong about the facts, but your intentions came from a good place. Dad was reading over Mom's shoulder. This property is worth at least $2 million. 2.4 actually. But it's paid for, fully furnished and legally transferred to both of you. No strings attached. How can you give us this after what happened tonight? Mom asked. Because you're my parents and I love you. Even when you don't understand my choices or my success, you're still the people who raised me to work hard and take care of others. Christopher leaned back in his chair looking stunned. Jessica, I feel like I don't know you at all. You know me perfectly well. I'm the same person who's always been interested in architecture and urban planning. The same person who spent college summers working construction jobs to learn about building systems. The same person who's been trying to share my professional excitement with family members who weren't interested in listening. Victoria was still staring at her phone. There are articles here about your property developments, your innovative financing strategies, your contributions to urban revitalization. Property development is fascinating work when you approach it strategically. And we've been treating you like a failure, Mom said, her voice barely a whisper. You've been treating me like someone whose success doesn't look the way you expected it to. There's a difference. Our entrees arrived, but no one seemed interested in food anymore. The server, Michelle, seemed to sense the tension at our table but maintained her professional demeanor as she set down our plates. After she left, Dad cleared his throat. Jessica, I think I speak for the whole family when I say we owe you a massive apology. You don't owe me an apology. You owe me attention, the kind of attention that would let you see who I actually am instead of who you're afraid I might be. How can we make this right? Mom asked. By listening when I talk about my work. By asking questions instead of offering unsolicited advice. By understanding that success comes in many different forms. I looked around the table at my family, all of them staring at me like they were seeing me for the first time in years. And by recognizing that someone can own half the buildings on this street while still shopping at discount stores, because spending money on expensive clothes doesn't make you successful, building something meaningful does. Mom reached across the table and took my hand. I'm so proud of you, Jessica. Not because of the money or the properties, but because you built all this while we were being blind to your achievements. Thank you, Mom. Can we start over? Can you forgive a foolish mother who got so caught up in appearances that she couldn't see her daughter's extraordinary success? There's nothing to forgive. There's just moving forward with better understanding. As we finally began eating our dinner in my building at a restaurant that paid me rent, during a celebration funded by rental income from properties I'd developed, I realized that the real victory wasn't proving my success to my family. It was finally having the chance to share it with people who could see me clearly, understand my achievements, and appreciate the empire I'd built one property at a time while they weren't paying attention. Later that night, as I stood on my rooftop garden 37 floors above the city, looking out over the lights of buildings I owned throughout the downtown core, I reflected on how the evening had unfolded. The Madison Avenue Bistro was quiet now, but the building hummed with the life of 12 luxury condominiums above it. Across the street, lights glowed in the windows of my office tower. 2 blocks away, guests were checking into my boutique hotel. I'd built something real, something substantial, something that would last. But the most valuable thing I owned wasn't visible from any rooftop. It was a family relationship rebuilt on truth instead of assumptions, worth more than any real estate empire could ever be.